Hello everybody, back to collisions again and back to pops. So in the last few lessons we looked at volumes, you might remember, and we looked at the ISO offset node, we looked at VDBs, and we looked at SDFs. And I'm going to show you a little bit now as how to use some of that inside of creating collisions with pops. So I'm just going to use something here from a previous lesson. And if you go back to the collisions lesson that was there previously, I think it might be lesson number 112 if you have a look. And we created this scene here, which is just simply this, right? A bunch of particles hit an object, they roll off it, and that's it. Basically, you're done, right? But I want you to look closely here. If you see there, you can see that it doesn't quite go on the surface. It's actually going slightly below the surface. Do you see that? It's not great, is it? And I'll go into my wireframe. I can see it looks okay in there, but here, no, not so great. So how can I fix that? Let's go into my collisions, into my PopNet, and I'm going to look at, I think, my static object. Let's go into there. And if you remember, this piece here is my static object, my collision object, right? And I'm going to take off the geometry, and now I can see those particles. The geometry is still there, of course, I just can't see it. But if I look closely, I can see this isn't a straight line. This is kind of a little bit bumpy, right? And of course we shouldn't have that. It's a flat piece of geometry. So why is that happening? And the reason is that the collisions aren't set up correctly. So let's go into collisions, and now I have a couple of options. I've got my RBD solver, my rigid body solver, or I've got my bullet data. And this can be a little bit confusing which one to use, to be honest. Now I've played around with this a fair bit, and it seems like this one is used most of the time, the RBD solver. Strangely, I found the bullet solver works better with rigid bodies, with RBDs. I don't understand this, but this one seems to work certainly better with everything else, and yeah, even with rigid bodies. So my suggestion is that just use this bullet with rigid bodies, but you might find other situations when it will work well. I'm just going to go here and go back to my RBD. I use this all the time when I'm using particles. Next thing is my collision detection. I have two options. I've got my volume collisions and surface collisions. It's set to default. I think the default is probably volume collisions, although I'm not really certain which one is the default. So I'm just going to select volume collisions straight from that. Now I want to quickly look at these volume collisions. Now remember, in the last lessons we created volumes using the VDBs, and we used the ISO offsets, and we also looked at the SDFs, which had, remember, the positive numbers outside of the object, and anything inside was negative. Okay, so I'm going to put on my collision guide. Let's get rid of this, and I can see that the resolution here isn't particularly great. Now you might have guessed what's going on here. This is actually an SDF, okay? And anything that of course touches this will work well. So let me go back a little bit. Okay, let's try 18 maybe. Okay, and I can see here that I've got a bit of a representation of my SDF, and it's not good quality. Of course, I've got a very low uniform divisions, and if I go down there, I can see that it's kind of bouncing off, but some of it is coming straight through. If I put my display back on, I can see, oh, that ain't great. And of course it's because my collision guide isn't my collisions aren't set up correctly. I don't have enough resolution in here to be able to make this work right. So if I go back to, let's say, 30, it's not looking so bad, and click, and I can still see that it's still going through here. It's still not good enough. Let me go back again. Maybe let's try 60. Okay, now it's looking a bit better. And yeah, this might be okay. It still looks a little bit bumpy. Let me go back to my display geometry and I will turn off this. And no, still not quite right. So I'm going to have to keep increasing this. Now, why not just crank it right up? And of course it's down to speed. Things are going to slow down because I have to calculate that SDF each time. And sometimes I can go really overboard. I've played around with these numbers. If you go up to something like, I don't know, 500, 600, it just maxes out, I found. And in fact, it would crash my Houdini and I would have to restart. So I don't suggest you do this, even though this can go quite high. For me, I found I was maxing out at about 300. And even at 300 it was really pushing it. So I wouldn't recommend that you go to such high numbers because you will eventually crash your machine. And I'm using a very slow machine here, remember, so your machine is probably quicker, it can probably handle a bit more, but certainly on my machine I found out about 260 to 300 I was starting to have problems already. So I'm going to keep mine pretty low. However, you will also find that I can still make my resolution pretty good. So I want to keep this maybe at around 180. Let's see this. Remember though, you want to be keeping it as low as possible, ideally. So let's see how this goes. Let's do it. There we go. It's done it. And this looks much better. It looks very similar now to my geometry here. So let's have a look how this is going to go. You can see things are now a bit slower, and yeah, that's looking like it might be okay. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to display geometry. Let's see how this goes. And you see it's still slow. For some reason, when I've got the collision guide on, it seems to go a lot more slowly. So I'm going to turn this off. And now you will see that things seem to be quite considerably faster. So if you can, remember to turn off this collision guide if you're getting very slow speeds. And this now is looking, I think, a bit better. Remember before it was right underneath, and now I can see that these particles are on the top. I can increase that more, of course, if I still have problems, but that's basically all you do. So remember, you're going to go to your static object. You're going to go into my RBD solver. Of course, first of all, collisions, RBD solver. Go into volume. I would turn on your collision guide, and then you need to crank these uniform divisions up until you've got sufficient resolution. And then you're good, hopefully, right? So anyway, I'll leave it there. Next lesson I will look at the surface collisions instead. But for now, let's cut it there, and you guys have a great day.